The primary purpose of provisioning application is to simplify the process of adding users to the ClearSpan system. With this application, when a user is added, so too is their phone device. With this application, an OpEasy administrator with little or no ClearSpan expertise can add users and their phone devices in one of two modes with minimal input. The two modes of input include single user mode and import mode. As mentioned previously, the provisioning application allows OpEasy administrators with little or no expertise capability to add a ClearSpan user to the system. This type of user will be referred to as basic OpEasy administrator going forward. In order for a basic OpEasy administrator to be successful, some groundwork must be completed by an OpEasy administrator who has considerable expertise with the ClearSpan system. The ClearSpan experienced administrator will be referred to as the advanced OpEasy administrator going forward. The provisioning application is divided into several sections. The basic OpEasy administrator will utilize the user function as its mechanism to create ClearSpan users and their phone devices. This function allows for deletion of users and phone devices as well. The other functions are provided for by an advanced OpEasy administrator. These functions include users and features, phone management, phone templates, and user profiles, and will not be covered during this tutorial. This tutorial will provide you an overview of OpEasy Basic User, Basic OpEasy Administrative Functionality, and then provisioning using single user mode, adding a ClearSpan user, single user mode, deleting a ClearSpan user, import mode, adding a ClearSpan user with a spreadsheet, and import mode, deleting a ClearSpan user via a spreadsheet. A typical basic OpEasy administrator will be defined as a department administrator, DA, or group administrator, GA. For this tutorial, basic OpEasy admin David is a department administrator, or DA, of the training enterprise and the facilities group. He has been granted authority over the users in all departments within the facilities group. Single user mode, adding a ClearSpan user. Part 1 of the 4-part tutorial describes the process of adding a ClearSpan user using single user mode. Upon logon by David, the main OpEasy screen is presented as shown. Per the main screen, located directly below the Astra logo, the OpEasy administrator's logon name will appear, in this case, David, followed by the OpEasy administrator's logon level, in this case, a department administrator. This administrator has been granted access to the provisioning application only, and so this is the only application that is available for selection. The applications that appear on the main OpEasy screen will vary from user to user and are dependent upon licensing and privileges granted by a higher level administrator. By selecting the provisioning button, you will begin the process of adding a ClearSpan user or phone device as shown here. Notice that the enterprise and group fields appropriately display training and facilities respectively. These fields are not modifiable because the department admin, David in this case, has permission to only this enterprise and group. This OpEasy admin has been given access to only the user function under provisioning. If the OpEasy admin had been given access to functions other than the user, then the interim screen would appear to allow the selection of the user along with the other functions. Select the search button to view all the users that exist within the OpEasy administrator as shown in this example. Per the screen, you will note that the user list shows the users from multiple departments. This is appropriate because the administrator, David, has permission over users in all departments within the facilities group. In some cases, the department field may be blank. This indicates that the user is not assigned to a department. You will also note that the list of users for this enterprise/group consists of just 3 users. If you have many users, you can filter the users by selecting a specific criteria and then using the search selection. Select the Add button to add a single user as shown in the following presentation. This is the only screen that must be filled in to add a ClearSpan user or phone device. The mandatory fields are denoted by an asterisk. Again, this method of entry is referred to as using single user mode because it allows manipulation of just one user at a time. Let's take a moment and explore the fields. User profile is a drop-down in order to select a profile. Typically, an advanced OpEasy administrator will have the user profiles in place prior to the basic OpEasy administrator coming to this screen. The user profile contains technical information that, when combined with the user information on this screen, will result in a complete user and phone build. The advanced OpEasy administrator will name the profiles in a descriptive manner so that the basic OpEasy administrator can easily identify and select the appropriate profile. The last name field will contain the information pertaining to the user's last name. The first character cannot be a plus sign, and when combined with the first name, must be at least 5 characters in length. First name field will contain the user's first name and also cannot begin with the plus symbol. Email address. Enter the email address for the user. It must contain the @ symbol. Department. This is a drop-down in order to select the appropriate department for this user. Phone number. This requires a valid phone number for this user, and it cannot be in use by another device. Physical location. Input a text description for the physical location of this user's device. This field is used by the 911 for purpose of location, so an accurate description is highly advisable. Voicemail. The options available for this field will be based upon the user's profile selection. Until a user profile is selected, no option will be available for this field. The user profile may allow no selection, so the value presented may not be modifiable, or a drop-down box may be provided with the variations of voicemail that are available. Voicemail password. This field will be presented if voicemail is enabled. The password allows entry into the voicemail portal. ClearSpan password. This password is used to allow access to the ClearSpan web portal if authorized. In creating this user, the OpEasy administrator selects the drop-down box for the user profile field, and you can see that there are 5 options that exist. These options for the user profile are 39i Conference, 39i Office, 57i General, 57i Lobby, and 57i Office. The advanced OpEasy administrator built these profiles and titled them to identify the type of phone and the group where the phones would reside. In this case, the basic OpEasy administrator knows that he is building a user for the facilities group that will be a 57i phone type, so he selects the 57i Office from the list. With the exception of department and voicemail, all fields are filled in by typing the data into the fields. The OpEasy administrator will select drop-down boxes for the department field and choose either engineering, groundskeeping, or maintenance, in this case, engineering, from the list of departments that are available for this OpEasy administrator. A drop-down list is available for the voicemail field because the user profile specifies that a selection can be made here. The OpEasy administrator can choose from no voicemail, voicemail with no notification, voicemail with email notification, or voicemail with email delivery. In this case, we select voicemail with no notification. By selecting the Apply button, this record will be input and saved to the ClearSpan database. The OpEasy administrator is presented the User Modify screen upon depressing the Apply button, and the text saved will appear in blue at the top of the screen. This is an indication that the add of our user was successful. From the Modify screen, changes to these fields associated with this user can be made. Now that we've seen what it takes to create a user using single user mode, let's back up prior to selecting the Apply button to review all the buttons available on the User Add screen. The buttons available are OK, Optional Information, Apply, Cancel, Phone Configuration, and Show Details as shown here. These buttons also exist for the User Modify screen as shown previously, but in different locations. The OK button. In general, pressing OK performs the same function as selecting the Apply, in that the action will be taken. However, when the OK button is used, the screen that follows button push will be the previous screen that was selected. By selecting the OK button from the User Add screen, the screen returned is the user screen. Optional information. This button presents a screen for supplying additional information pertaining to the user. As the title implies, this information is optional. If the desire is to provide this information, it can be added prior to selecting the Apply button during the User Add session, or from the User Modify screen after the user has been created. The only data fields that are automatically filled in on this screen are the time zone and the language fields. These are set by default to Central Time Zone and English, respectively. The domain for the phone device alias, which reflects the domain selected by the Advanced OpEasy administrator when creating this user profile, will also be filled in. Modification to all fields is allowed, and save changes is accomplished by pressing the Return button, which returns you to the previous screen, or in this case, the User Add page, and then selecting either the Apply or OK. Apply button. In general, selecting the Apply performs the same function as selecting the OK, in that an action is taken. However, when the Apply button is used, the user will not be returned to the previous screen. Rather, the User Modify screen for the user just created will be presented. By selecting the Cancel button, the user will be returned to the previous screen, the user screen in this case. Due to the Cancel button being applied, the user would not have been created in this case, and the user would be returned to the user list. Let's take a moment and look at the phone configuration screen. We know this is the phone configuration associated with the user Steve Becker because we selected the phone configuration button from the User Add screen after entering data for this user. Note at the top the enterprise and group associated with Steve Becker are displayed. Below the enterprise and group, the phone device type and template values will appear. This requires some explanation in order to understand where these values originated. As you may recall, when creating this user, the basic OpEasy administrator selected a user profile entitled 57i Office. When creating this user profile, the advanced OpEasy administrator associated the Astra 6757i phone device type and a phone template named 6757i Enhanced Service to this profile. Thus, the associations are reflected here. The phone pictured is an Astra 6757i device, aka 57i device. We can learn from this picture that the phone device has 12 soft keys labeled soft key 1 through soft key 6 and top soft key 1 through top soft key 6. A soft key is soft because it can be assigned any function and it physically is not a raised button on the phone. Rather, the function of the button is performed by selecting the label on the display screen that identifies the function. More details on this will be provided in the next section. We can also learn from this picture of the physical hard keys that are available on this phone and their location. The physical keys are raised buttons on the phone that have specific functions and cannot be altered. Note that aside from the normal telephone keypad, which includes buttons 0 through 9, star, and pound, the following physical buttons are provided with this phone, starting in the lower left corner and continuing in a clockwise fashion. Volume, redial, hold, options, goodbye, the navigational keys, line 4, line 3, line 2, line 1, speaker, headset, and mute. Now note the table entitled Line Definitions to the right of the picture. It is provided to inform us that the 57i phone is capable of supporting 9 lines or extensions. Because we only have 4 physical buttons assigned as lines on this device, we know that 5 more can be defined as soft keys. The table titled Soft Keys is provided to inform us that the 6757i phone is capable of supporting 36 soft key functions. This particular template has been created with definitions for soft keys 1 through 4 only. Note that soft key number 6 is designated as a More key. The More button will not appear on the actual phone unless soft keys beyond the first screen have been defined. So if, for example, 12 soft keys have been defined, then soft keys 1 through 5 will appear on the display, and then the more key will be displayed as soft key number 6. By selecting the more, you will then display the additional soft keys. In summary, the phone configuration button displays the phone device and the template definition associated with this user. There is no capability to modify this template from this screen. It is for visual reference only. By selecting the OK button, you can return to the previous screen. Let's now look at the Show Detail button from the Add or Modify User screen. Note the top half of the screen has gone unchanged. The Show Detail button is replaced by the Hide Details button. A Refresh button appears aside the Hide Detail button, and detail information will appear below the Hide Details button. The Refresh button updates the detailed display as changes are made in the top half of the screen. The details are derived from the user information which the basic OpEasy administrator has provisioned, plus user information that may be defined by an advanced OpEasy administrator. All fields are modifiable. To save any changes that may have been made, simply select the Apply or OK button. Single user mode, deleting a ClearSpan user. This is part 2 of the 4-part tutorial describing the process of deleting a ClearSpan user using single user mode. Basic OpEasy administrator David wants to delete a ClearSpan user, Steve Becker. From the user screen, select the search button to obtain a list of the users. Find user Steve Becker in the list and then select the Edit button on the row where the user is listed. The Edit button is located to the right of each listing. After selecting the Edit function button, you will be presented with the User Modify screen. Here you can see the record for Steve Becker has been presented. From this selection option, we will need to choose the Delete function button located at the top region. After selection of the Delete function button, you will be taken to the User Delete screen. Here you will be presented with an option in a drop-down box form to either delete just the information pertaining to the user, Steve Becker, or both the user information and the phone device, in this case the 39i Office configuration. We will select both the user and phone device, which is also the default. You will need to select the Delete function button from the User Delete screen to complete the process. After selection of the Delete, the administrator will receive an additional pop-up dialog box requesting verification to complete the deletion process, or select Cancel to abort the deletion. By selecting the OK, the administrator will be returned to the User Search Display screen. As you notice here, Steve Becker no longer is displayed in the list of available users. Now let's explore the General Settings tab. This is located under the User Search screen. The purpose of this screen is to inform the OpEasy administrator of the information that will be sent via an email to the ClearSpan user when the user phone device has been added. For a department or group administration, this screen is information only. In other words, no changes can be made. Note that this email will only be sent if the user profile has been set to send email after user creation and if the user's email was provided by the OpEasy administrator at the time the user was created. Import mode, adding ClearSpan user via spreadsheet. This is part 3 of the 4-part tutorial describing the process of adding ClearSpan users using the import mode. This is accomplished by using a spreadsheet to import the data. The benefit of using a spreadsheet is to reduce the input time when many users need to be added or otherwise manipulated. Basic OpEasy administrator David will now add multiple ClearSpan users via the import mode. As we start this part of the tutorial, the Basic OpEasy administrator is on the user screen and has performed a search to see all the users. By selecting the Import function button, you will receive the Import Input screen. You will then need to select the Get Worksheet function button in order to import a default worksheet to the local computer. After selecting the Get Worksheet, you will receive the File Download dialog box. Here you will select the Open function button in order to open the Excel spreadsheet. You may receive an additional Excel warning saying the Office file validation has detected a problem. This pop-up is presented because the system recognizes there are invalid characters, such as blanks, within the spreadsheet columns where data is supposed to exist. There is no need for concern, and we expect the columns to be blank in a new or fresh worksheet. Let's take a moment to explore the worksheet. Starting at the top, the name of the worksheet is shown as ClearSpan Import _ followed by the administrator's logon, in this case David, followed by brackets with a number. This format will be followed for all Get Worksheet retrievals unless you have saved to another name. The cell that contains NPA-NXX can be ignored in most cases. It is useful when a ClearSpan solution is replacing a key system installation where only 3 or 4 digit extensions existed. For these type installations, a user's 3 or 4 digit extension must be padded with the digits for NPA-NXX to create a 10-digit number. The worksheet allows OpEasy Administrator to replace the NPA-NXX with 6 or 7 digits that will become the padded extension. With the NPA-NXX in place, the user can specify just the extension in the phone number column. Upon validation, the digits in the NPA-NXX will pre-append the extension everywhere the 10-digit phone number is used. The Update At will always show Not Yet Loaded when looking at a ClearSpan import worksheet. However, once a spreadsheet is processed, a result spreadsheet will be generated, and the result spreadsheet will replace the Not Yet Loaded with the process date and time. The version identifies the spreadsheet version. This spreadsheet version is the spreadsheet version provided with OpEasy 3.3. It is helpful to track the version numbers because the OpEasy version is upgraded, and it is likely the spreadsheet versions will also be upgraded, and the lower version spreadsheets may not be forward compatible. To the right of these columns are the enterprise name and group name columns. The OpEasy Administrator is not able to issue a Get Worksheet until the enterprise and group has been determined. Thus, when the worksheet is created, it is tied to the enterprise as well as the group. At the top right of the worksheet is the Validate button. This is used to perform validation of the data which is input into the spreadsheet. When using single user mode, the main user add screen is all that is required to be provisioned in order to add a new user. Similarly, when using the import mode, the blue section of the user worksheet is all that is required to be data filled in order to add a new user. Let's take a moment and look at each of the columns. Command. Use the drop down to select either Add, Remove, or Done in regards to the action that should be taken on this row of data. The Done button simply means no process of rows at or below the Done row will be attempted. Last name. Input the last name of the user. Most characters are accepted, except for the first character cannot be the plus symbol. The combination of the first and last name must be at least 5 characters. First name. Input the first name of the user. Again, most characters are acceptable except for the plus symbol, and the combination of the first and last name must be at least 5 characters. Email address. Enter the email address for the user. The address must contain the @ symbol or @ sign. Use the drop-down to select a department if applicable. Otherwise, the default is none. Phone number. Enter a valid number that exists on the ClearSpan system. This number must not be in use by another device. User profile. Use the drop-down to select a profile. Typically, an advanced OpEasy administrator will set up the user profiles in place prior to the basic OpEasy administrator coming to this point in the spreadsheet. the user profile contains the technical information that, when combined with the data from the other columns in this section of the worksheet, it will complete the user build. The advanced user will name the profiles in a descriptive manner so that the basic user can easily identify and select the appropriate profile. Voicemail account. Use the drop-down to specify whether the user has voicemail and the type of voicemail notification that is applicable. Voicemail password. This password must be filled in if voicemail is in use, as it allows entry to the voicemail portal. ClearSpan password. This password is used to allow the user to access their web portal if authorized. Physical location. Enter any text to describe the physical location of this user phone device. This field is used for 911 purposes, so providing an accurate description is highly advisable. Let's now take a look at OpEasy Administrator David creating the ClearSpan user Steve Becker with the same privileges as he did when using single user mode. So David will fill in the blue section of the worksheet as follows. Command, add, last name, Becker, first name, Steve, email address, steve.becker@maytown.com, department, engineering, phone number, 222-123-2010, user profile, 57i office. Voicemail account. We're going to select no voicemail in this instance. Voicemail password, therefore, can be left blank due to the fact that we are not equipping this user with voicemail. ClearSpan password for ClearSpan web portal, 123456. Phone location, 52 Rocky Ford Road. As we can see in the comparison with the single user mode, these are the exact same fields with the exception of command that we used in the single user mode for creation of Steve Becker earlier. However, to better illustrate the ability to add multiple users when using import mode, Administrator David wishes to add 2 additional users to the worksheet. For these users, voicemail will be used, so voicemail account and voicemail password columns will be filled in accordingly. On the next line in the worksheet, then, we will input the command add, last name Burke, first name Lisa, email address lisa.burke@maytown.com, the phone number 222-123-3050, the user profile 39i office, voicemail account, voicemail email notification, voicemail password 123456, ClearSpan password 123456, and the location Sublet Road. On the next line, we will select add, the last name Littleman, first name Myron, email address Myron Littleman, department engineering, phone number 222-123-3051, the user profile, again for this example I will select 39i office, voicemail account, voicemail no notification, voicemail initial password 123456, ClearSpan password 123456, and the physical location St. Mary's Road. In the next column, we will go ahead and select done as the command. However, it's not necessary to do this. This is a good practice to prevent the spreadsheet from executing other commands that might exist in saved spreadsheets below this entry point. Next, select the Validate button to validate the user input data into the spreadsheet. If the validation is successful, two things will happen. First, the status column is updated for each row where a command other than the done was issued. As you can see here, for each column, you see the OK status. The second item, the voicemail worksheet, will be created. If you notice now, there is a user worksheet and a voicemail worksheet. This worksheet contains the voicemail information per user based on the selections made in the voicemail account on the user worksheet. If no voicemail is selected, then no entry will exist for that user. As you see in this example, there are only 2 entries for voicemail. This is due to the fact that Steve Becker was initially set under the User tab for no voicemail. If no problems exist following the validation, save the spreadsheet locally so that it can be later referenced for import. In this case, the spreadsheet is saved as clearspan import _ David parentheses open 1 parentheses closed .xls. Note if the validation fails, a red X with a yellow background will appear in the status box, as well as the column with the invalid data will be highlighted in yellow. Correct the columns highlighted and validate again to get the OK status before proceeding. Let's take a look at an example of a failure on an import spreadsheet validation. Note the second entry indicates a failure in the status column. The highlighted user profile column indicates the failure is due to invalid data, or in this case, the lack of data. To correct the problem, use the drop-down to make a selection, then run the validation again to update the status. Since to this point the import took place on the local PC, the information is stored on that PC's local drive. The next step is to import that information into the ClearSpan system via the OpEasy import option. This is achieved by selecting the Browse button located on the import screen, locating the file that was saved earlier, in this case the ClearSpan import _ David parentheses open 1 parentheses close .xls file. Once the file is located, then you can select the Start button to begin the process of importing the spreadsheet into OpEasy. At this point, the execution will take place in OpEasy software to initiate the installation of the data records into the ClearSpan system. It's important to verify no failures occurred during this process. As you can see here, the worksheet user summary says 3 commands were processed with 0 failures, and then for the worksheet voicemail, 2 commands were executed with 0 failures. Failures must be addressed prior to proper operation of these ClearSpan users. Let's now take a moment to look at the results spreadsheet. This is achieved by selecting Retrieve the Last Result function button on the import screen. Note at the top of the spreadsheet, the file name is ClearSpan import results followed by the OpEasy administrator login's name. The spreadsheet name created when you use the Get Worksheet is ClearSpan _ followed by OpEasy administrator's login name. This distinction allows you to keep the spreadsheets used for import separate from those for show results. On the results spreadsheet, note that the date and time is displayed following the uploaded @ indicator. It is a good practice to save all results spreadsheet as a record of adds, deletes, and changes that have been performed. Also note on the user worksheet, the status column now shows success. This is an indication that the command was successfully performed. Also, you will note the error column for each user now shows no errors. You should expect that if the leftmost status column shows success, then the rightmost error column should also be blank. But it is a good practice to check both. Now open the voicemail worksheet and look for the status of the voicemail manipulation for the users. As you can see here, the status column shows success as well for the voicemail entries. In this table, the rightmost column is the error column also. Scroll to the right and confirm the error column for each user row indicates no errors as shown here. Any errors that occur need to be addressed by the administrator. At the import screen, rather than using the download results button to view the results of the spreadsheet, the user may provide an appropriate email address in the email address field as shown here. Then select the email results button to have a copy of the results spreadsheet sent to the specified email address. After the email is sent, the screen updates with blue text, Import Results File Sent. On the lower left section of the screen is shown. Note that this application does not validate the email address. If the email address is not valid, the message in blue will still be presented because the attempt was made to send the email. Import mode, deleting ClearSpan user via a spreadsheet. The fourth and final part of this tutorial describes the process of deleting ClearSpan users via import mode with a spreadsheet. The benefit of deleting users using import mode via a spreadsheet versus single user mode is that it saves time when many agents need to be deleted. In this example, basic OpEasy administrator David will now delete ClearSpan users Steve Becker and Lisa Burke using the import mode. To illustrate this process, the basic OpEasy administrator is on the user screen and has performed a search to see all the users as shown here. Note that Steve and Lisa appear within the list. By selecting the import button to begin the delete user process, you will then be presented with the following screen. It is the best practice that once an OpEasy administrator has filled in a worksheet for adding users, the user will save the spreadsheet locally in case it needs to be used again, as in this example, to delete users. Since we earlier saved the spreadsheet that added the users, we will now reopen that spreadsheet using Microsoft Excel as shown here. In order to perform a delete using the import mode, on the user worksheet, use the drop-down box on the command column to select the remove option for any and all rows that you wish to delete. The command column for all other rows should be cleared to prevent unwanted processing. The done command can be utilized as this will stop processing beyond this entry point within the spreadsheet. Note that when using single user mode, the admin has the option to delete just the user or the phone device and user. Through the import mode, the option to delete just the user does not exist. The administrator must delete via the single user mode if deletion of the user is all that is required. Once you've updated the columns, then you will need to perform an additional validation to validate the commands within the worksheet. Validation will update the voicemail worksheet. In this case, no add commands are being issued, so the voicemail spreadsheet will contain no rows for entries. With the modifications complete, save the spreadsheet to a new name. In our case, the spreadsheet is saved as ClearSpan import _ David parentheses open 4 parentheses close .xls. Now you can return to the import screen and use the browse function to locate the provisioned spreadsheet that you just saved. Once located, select the Start button to begin process. The spreadsheet processing ensues and the results are presented on the screen as shown here. From the results, we can see that 2 commands were processed for the user worksheet without failure, and no commands have been processed for the voicemail worksheet. Again, the results spreadsheet can be obtained by selecting the Downloads results or by selecting Email results within the same manner as discussed previously under the Import Mode Adding ClearSpan User via Spreadsheet section. When reviewing results, look for the success in the status column of the user and voicemail worksheets. From the import screen, select OK to return to the user screen by selecting the search button then you can obtain a list of all current users within that administrator's enterprise and/or group. This concludes this tutorial for basic OpEasy user interface.